Hey guys, as part of today's topic, we'll be going over Sitecore user management and role management and see how different security settings can be enabled in the system to define access rights and permissions on the user level and on the role level. So from the implementation and from the security perspective, basically there are three different settings which can be configured. One is allow, second one is deny, and another one is inherit. So allow is simple as like we can basically just give the grant access rights for the selected item. It is as simple as that. Deny is something like we can just deny the permissions on the selected item, and inherit is something which we basically inherit the permissions from the parent level, right? So and it is always recommended, and it's a good practice to have these security permissions defined on the user level rather than defining those permissions on the user level, because when you have like different users mapped to a specific role, it will be easy for you to basically maintain your system. Basically the maintenance will be streamlined, and down the line any if you want to have those permissions defined for a specific user, you just need to map that user to that specific role, and you're just all set, right? So uh, that is what the recommended way to have to go for the from the security perspective. So as part of today's demo, we'll be going over, as I mentioned before, like we'll be going over the user management, wherein like we will see how to create a new user. Uh, we'll also go over the role management, wherein like we will try to create a new custom role, and we'll see like how different we for that specific user slash role, we will see how what different security things can be configured, right? So we can take a use case wherein like we can, in the Sitecore content tree, we can create two different sites, right? We can have like site 1 and site 2 defined, and then whatever new user and custom role we gonna create, we'll just give access to a specific site node rather than giving permissions to on the both sides. That's what one use case which we can try here. And another thing which I also want to show you is like how basically we can define the permissions on the language level. So let's take an example where like you have one site, right? So in this case, let's say you have two different sites, site one and site two, and site one is basically your default site just on English, and site 2 is defined on a specific different language, let's say Spanish or any other country language, right? So as an user, I just want to make sure that my that specific user don't have permission to change anything on any other language except English, right? So those type of settings also can be configured using security editor, right? So we'll go over that. So let's start with it. Let me go to, so this is the blank site installation I have installation. So let's go to content editor here. It's taking a while. Okay, let's go to content editor here. Okay, so this is the default installation, right? I haven't made any changes so far as part of it. So let's do one thing, under Sitecore content and home, let's create two more sites. Okay, so we can create those two sites directly as a child of content, right? So let's start with it, insert from template, and uh, go to, let it open. Okay, so let's go to common and create a new site folder here, and we can just call it as site 1. Okay, and another site which we can create here is, let's just duplicate this site folder and call it as site 2. Okay, and then we can also copy over the same home item to site 1. Anyways, I'm not going to browse site 1 home item anyways, but just for the for the organization perspective, I'm adding the home item as part of my both the sites. Okay, so we're good with this. Then let's create some more content items here. So insert from template, and I can just go to sample and let's call it as sample one. Just duplicate it, call it as sample two, and insert, let's call it as sample three. And let's just duplicate this, sample 4, right? So as of now, what I have done is we have two different sites created with an home item and then couple of sample items created. What I also want to do here is I want to create a new custom template. Maybe we can just call it as an event, and try to create a couple of items on both the sides. So let's go to template and go to feature. Let's create a new template folder, event, and I'll just make it simple. I'm not going to add more fields on it. Underscore event. Okay, next. Okay, we're good on this. So let's just add event section, and then just add couple of fields: event name, event description, and it can be rich text, and then event date, right? And we can just call it as date time. Fine, so we're good with the feature template here. Save is taking a while here. Okay, so we are good with this. Let's go to project sandbox and create a new template folder and call it as event. Okay, and create a project template here. Let's call it as event here. Let's create it there. Next, close it, and just inherit your feature template on it. Great. Okay, so what we can do now is let's try creating a couple of event item. Okay, let me push these items under home. Anyway, it's not going to make any difference, but I'm just trying to organize it better. Second, that's under home. Same thing I can do for site 2 as well, for sample 3 and sample 4. Okay, great. Next, what I'm doing, I'll be creating couple of event item. So let me go to project, sandbox, event, and let's just call it as event 1. Okay, which has event name, description, event date. Let's just duplicate this and call it as event 2. Fine. Let's go to the site 2 and create event 3, and just copy it again and call it as event 4, right? Okay, great. So now, so we have basically the high level content trees in place. We have two different sites, site 1 and site 2, and we have few content items created on it, and we have few default content types created and few custom templates which has event name, event description, and event date, which will be leveraging to basically restrict read permissions on a specific fields, which we'll be covering in few minutes from now. So let's do one thing. So our basically role intention is to have a user created, and that user should have access only for site 1 and not for site 2. And we can assume that site 1 is an English site, and then site 2 it can be any other site like Germany, Spanish, and anything which we can be configured here. So let's start with it. So before we create a user, let's create a role first. So before So in order to create a role, you just need to go to a dashboard and role manager. So out of the box, you will see all these different roles created for you. So you don't have to make any changes on that. What we would be doing is we'll be creating a new role. So just click on new, give your role a new role name. You can give it as um, default role, default role, and or maybe let me just make it default CA role. Okay, click on OK, and then you can actually inherit some of the other roles. You can do it by just clicking on member of and click on add, and we can actually let's see, let's give it as client, Sitecore client advanced publishing, Sitecore client authoring, and then see, Sitecore client designing. Okay, so the other three roles which you have defined here, click on close, and then if you click on member of, okay, we have all those roles here, right? Okay, now the next thing, so we have the role in place now, right? And the role name is default CA role. Next step would be to create a new user which will be part of this role. So for that, you just need to go to your launchpad, click on user manager. Okay, so these are the different roles which we have here. So we can actually create a new role here, and let's call it as uh, default CA, uh, default CA, default CA at test.com. Command, we can just give it as Sitecore user. Let me make it simple for now. Okay, so from role, just click on edit. Okay, and then from here you can actually select the default CA role which you have just added. Select that role, click on add here, click on OK. Okay, so now you can see a whole lot of roles which we have added. Just click on next, click on close. Okay, great. So let me log out, and let me default CA and the password which I have given here. Okay, um, go to content editor. Okay, so here we can see like we have this new role created default CA, but at the moment like this particular role has access to both the site. It has access to site 1 and site 2, right? So if we expand this one, you can see all different items, but from the requirement perspective, we just want to make sure that this specific role has access only to site 1 and not to site A. So in order to do that, let's log out from here, go to security editor. Yeah, so basically security editor is a dashboard where like you can configure different security permissions for a specific user or role, right? So from here, select the role which you want to configure. So if you click on account here, click on roles, and then we can actually select the default CA role here. Just select it, click on OK, and now that specific role is selected. So with this role selected, we can actually define what exactly we want to do with all the content tree here, right? So this role is selected. We don't want this particular role user has access to Sitecore site 2. So it's as simple as like we just give read permission as uh, uh, we just basically deny it the read permission, and then just we can actually set this as well if you want. So once we have this thing set in place, basically inheritance is something we are basically making sure that what are the permissions this particular site, this particular folder and child nodes are inheriting from the from the parent item. We basically prevent that inheritance part on it, right? So that is one thing. The same thing can be done for other items as well, like in case if you have the similar structure created under media library. In this case, I like we don't have those folders created under any of the feature foundation or project, but in case if we have different folders created based on based on different sites under media library, you can actually set those permission on media library as well. But let's not focus on media library for now. So we have given for just for this role the site, so for site 2 the read permission, basically we have denied, and the inheritance is also set here, that is also denied. From here, if you go to access viewer, we can see the permissions on that specific site and on the item level. So here, if you see for this specific site, the read, write, rename, create, delete, and all those things are set to false. And then if we click on child items as well, the same permission has been granted, right? Because it actually takes the from the parent item, right? Because by default, any Sitecore item in the Sitecore content tree will inherit the permission from the parent item. Okay, so this is what we have, right? So let's try it. Let me just log out first. Okay, and let me log in with default CA user again and see if it makes any difference. Go back to content editor. Right. So now you can see like we are not seeing that specific user is not seeing anything on the site 2, right? It just we have site 1 and all the child items on it. So here one more thing which we are seeing, like you cannot edit this item because you don't have write access to it, right? So but as part of our configuration, we want to make sure that the all the users which has default CA roles configured should be able to edit this all these items, right? So in order to do that, let's go back to uh, the security editor again. Okay, and what I want to do is let's go to home item and just give it the read permission, write permissions, rename, everything you just create, or basically administer, delete, everything you give. And yeah, it's all simple as that. That's it. You don't need this one. So another way is you can just click on this item and then the same permission can be seen here as well, right? Okay, so click on OK here. So what basically we have done, or instead of doing it on the basically on the home item, what we can do, let me just uncheck this one. Okay, and this can be done on the folder level as well, right? So once we have this folder, just click on assign here, and then just read, write, everything can be given here as well. Okay, fine. Let's click on OK. Fine. So now let's log out from here and default CA. Click on content editor. Okay. Oh, sorry. 1 second. Security editor. Site 1. Sign here. This has to be done. Read permission. Oops. Oh, sorry. Okay. So here, if you see, like the permission which we were defining, that was for default anonymous role, but basically we need to define these permissions for default CA role. Okay. So let's switch back to default CA role here. Go to your content item and then let's set this thing to true. Fine. So we have these things in place. If you go back to access viewer here, and now uh, let me see. Okay, so all these things have been set here, and if you go to access viewer, so for Sitecore default CA role, we can see the site 1 has all the read write permissions with all the child items as well. Fine. So from here, let's log out, log into default CA role and see, oh sorry, default CA. log out, go to content editor. Okay, now we have permission to basically edit this specific item. We can lock and edit and all those things we can do. We can also lock and edit and make updates to event item. Okay, we can also make update to event 2 as well. Okay, another thing which I just want to show here is, um, as of now for this site one, we are actually making all the modification as part of English site, right? But how about if we have more items on it, right? Let's say if you have one more language on it, right? So uh, as let's say if you have event one and it has the version is on English as well as some other language as well, but I don't want my default CA users to change anything uh, on a different language, right? They just they should be making updates only to English language version, right? So how to make sure that they don't get access to content items other than English? So in order to do that, let's go to content editor. Okay, let's log out first, password. Okay, and go to content editor. Let's add a new language first. So go to system, languages. So by default we have just one language configured. Let's add a new language here. Right click, insert language, and let's select any specific language. So let's select maybe Spanish. Okay, let's select Spanish. Okay, click on next, 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 and okay, your language is all created here. Now from here, if we go back to from admin only, if we go back to our site one, because that's what we are actually testing. Let's add item version item for the newly created language as well. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, so we have this new language created here. uh, we can add a new language. Okay, new version. We can add a new version here as well. We'll add a new version here as well, and we can add a new version for this as well. So basically okay, let me do it for home item as well. Home. So all the content items under site one has now two different versions, one for English and one for Spanish, right? But from the business roles perspective, I don't want my default CA users to make any change on Spanish version. They should be updating only English language version. If you don't make any updates from here and try to log in back with the same user, you can see the user will be able to update the Spanish version as well. Okay, so let's go to content editor again. And if you go back to, let's say, event one only, and here we have English and I have Spanish version as well, and as a user I can log and edit and make all those updates. But from the requirement and from the business flow perspective, I don't want my users to make any change to Spanish version. So uh, there is a high, like, even though we provide content author training to them, there is a high chance that there are certain scenarios they may miss it, right? It's not like that. They may like switch different language versions there and can start making their updates there. So the best way is to password. Okay, and go to content editor and go to system, go to languages and select the language which you don't want give access to your specific roles. So select that language and then click on security here and click on assign, right? So roles and users, add accounts to. So so as of now what we have done, we have just selected the specific language which we want to control. Click on access, right, access viewer, and then click on assign. So here basically we need to specify which role we want to target. So click on add accounts, and then from here you can select what role or what user you want to control. So as I mentioned before, everything should be done based on the user level rather than doing it on the roles level. So select users here and then select what role you have created. So as of now we have created, oh sorry, let's do it on role level. So default CA and click on OK. Right, so we have this default CA role, and what we can do is we can actually control this one. Right, we don't have to, we basically can remove this read permission even on the language level. Right, so just click on OK. Fine. So what we have done for this Spanish language, we selected the specific role, default CA role, and we have given, we have basically denied access on the, we have denied read, write, and language read and language write access on the specific language item. So from here, if we log out and then, sorry, there is too much back and forth from Sitecore. So if you go back to content editor and let's review if it has any change on it. Okay, so here you can see we have this event item here, the default one in English, and if we select here we cannot see, we are actually not seeing that specific language, Spanish one, which was there before. So, right, so this way basically we can make sure, like by mistake also, content author doesn't make any change to specific content items. One another thing which I want to show you is, let's say there is a requirement wherein like uh, we don't want specific users to make content updates to a specific field itself, right? So as of now, if you see, we have a custom template event section which has three different fields on it: event name, we have event description, and we have event date. But how about like if I don't want my users that belongs to default CA role should not be making any updates to event date, right? So that can be configured, and to do that, I'm pretty sure this is a very common scenario. So for that, again, we have to go to security editor, right? Select the role which you want to configure. So we are doing it for default CA role, and go to templates and go to feature, event section. Okay, so under event section we have name, description, and event date, and out of these three fields I just want to control my event date, so that users from default CA role should are not able to make any updates to event date. So I just need to make sure that this is set to read, and that's it. Right, if I click on event, also default CA role, we have this default read permission is set to false. Okay, just click on OK, and hopefully this is the last time I'm logging out here, and default CA, and then click on login, and let's go back to content editor. Let's go to event. Okay, one second, I think I made a mistake there. Joshi password. We go to security editor, default CA, templates, feature, event, trade, sign. Yeah, I don't want to give read, field read. Should be fine. Even read should do it for you. So just do it. Go to access viewer once. Go to event date. Event date, it is set to false. Fine. Fine. Uh, Default CA. Let's go to event Yeah, so now you can see like we are seeing only couple of fields here, like event name and event description as an content editor, as an users that belongs to default CA role can make updates to these two fields and they can publish it. So these are some of the things which I which was there in my agenda to demonstrate, and then there are a few other things also which we can do. We can basically extend the same functionality of security on the workflow as well. So we can define workflows rules, and user who has has specific permissions to approve, to reject, and all those things can be controlled with security editors. Then there are other things we can do with security editors, like if you want to basically deny permission for a specific item, irrespective of role, that also can be done. So it's again like based on the requirement, and based on how much you want to extend it, again based on the requirement. So I hope like this basically gives you an overview on how different systems like user management, role management, and security works together, and what are the different configurations you need to do to make sure that you are specifying proper permissions on the user and role level. Pretty much that's it for this, and thanks for your time, thanks for watching, and please provide me your feedback, your comments, and please do subscribe if you're not. Thank you, have a great day.